guest. I think we may start with our today's masterclass. Thank you for coming. We continue our series of masterclasses by International Chess Federation. We want to thank our partners. It's International Chess Federation FIDE and Turkish Chess Federation, who are helping us a lot in placing these activities here in Antalya. And we are more than happy to introduce our speaker today. Our today's masterclass is titled Structuring Young Players' Learning Path. This session is designed as an educational space not only for those who teach chess, but also for those who support young players in their development journey. Because when we speak about learning paths in chess, we are not speaking only about rating improvement, but about motivation, structure, timing, and long-term growth. One of the biggest challenges in youth chess is not what to teach, but when and how to teach it. How do we guide a young player from curiosity to commitment? How do we avoid overwhelming them complexity too early? And how do we help them move from concrete understanding to deeper, more abstract thinking without losing confidence or joy in the game? These are the questions that today's masterclass will address. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, FIDE Master Alper Efe Ataman. Mr. Ataman began his chess journey in 1989 as an enthusiastic young player. Over the years, his role in chess evolved naturally and organically from player to coach to founder of chess publishing house, Satranç, and today as a board member of the Turkish Chess Federation. What makes his perspective especially valuable for today's topic is that he has experienced chess from every side of the board, as a learner, as a teacher, as a content creator, and now as an administrator. Yet, as he himself emphasizes, beyond all titles, he defines himself first and foremost as a chess enthusiast. In this masterclass, Mr. Ataman will share his personal perspective on how a young player's learning path should be structured. He will speak about the learning process not as a rigid program, but as a transformation, turning complex and potentially confusing material into something constructive and motivating. He will touch upon the fundamental importance of instilling a love for chess and independent practice, the role of tactics not only in calculation, but in building confidence and goal-oriented thinking. The transition from simple and concrete ideas to complex and abstractional positional understanding. And finally, the importance of pattern recognition and game analysis, drawing lessons from master games and from one's own mistakes. Without taking more time, I would like to invite Mr. Ataman to begin his presentation. Mr. Ataman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to also thank International School Chess Federation because of their efforts of empowering our game. And we are really happy as a Turkish Chess Federation to host you in Antalya. You are also making this tournament much better and much exciting for sure. As a chess aficionado, I'm very happy that my name is going alongside with Mr. Ramesh, Mr. Chuchalo, and yesterday Mr. Kasim Jamal, because it's a big honor for me because they are all legendary players. But when you approach the Turkish Chess Federation, our board members and my other friends motivated me to share my experiences. So I'm really glad that I'm making these presentations according to my humble experiences, actually. Also, I would like to thank Mr. Ediz Güler, Mr. Selahattin Erdoğmuş, and other friends of Turkish chess circles because they are the guys that make Turkish Chess Federation so proud. And so it's a big pleasure for me to make these presentations with them. 36 years ago, I began my journey actually as a player, of course, like all of us, because nobody wants to become a chess trainer in the beginning, actually. Everybody makes a connection with chess, and then after some successes or some good times, they make a bridge between the game and the love of the game. And then with this journey, they improve their game, and then it's much, much more exciting and more fun for them, actually. But over the years, after realizing that I'm not going to be a great chess player, I turned myself into a trainer with sharing my playing skills actually with my young guys, and then showing them having some good results. Actually, my name was known in the Turkish chess circle as a good chess trainer, but I never lose this love for the game actually. And then after some years, I decided to build a chess publishing house, because in Turkey there was no big repertoire of chess books. So I thought that would be a good effort to make some contribution in this way. Now I still run the business with like 50 books in Turkish language, all translated from English for 20 years. And then for the last 14 months, I'm trying to contribute to Turkish Chess Federation in some other ways as an administrator, because back in those days we were thinking like this could be much better, this could be improved. So those are my actually roles in chess nowadays. When my friends suggested me the title The Learning Path, actually, I was so excited, but also at the same time kind of worried, because it's such a broad topic. No matter what you do, it's not an easy formula to structure a player's arsenal, actually, because you have too many different players at very different levels. So not a single formula can be accepted for all the young chess players. But one thing that has never changed is when you meet a guy, meet a group of chess playing guys, young guys, the most important thing is to make the environment more fun for them and instill the love of the game at the first time. Because chess, unfortunately, is a very complex and hard game. So at the first threshold, when they start to play and they couldn't understand everything, but we make them to play and show their best. But unfortunately, when they lose, most of them loses their motivation to play more. So in the beginning, I think the most important thing is instilling love for the game, and that is achieved by first by playing, of course. Nobody wants to listen all the time to lectures and stuff, and they just want to play and improve their game. But also you have to break it down to parts, actually. This complex whole is a little parts. So from my experience, I think chess tactics is very important, because when you show them some chess tactics from some like one checkmate in one or checkmate in two, or some tactical themes like forking, discovered attack, and so on, they know what they should achieve, and then they focus their thoughts on that goal. And when they achieve it, they know that they are appreciated, that they can see that I can do it, I can be a successful chess player if I listen to my trainer, my teacher's suggestions, and I can focus on my topic. But of course, in chess, unfortunately, there are too many subjects to deal with. Tactical elements is one little part of the game, but then after improving, there comes the hard part, the more abstract parts of the game, this positional understanding. And here, I think, in my opinion, you meet the second threshold, because it's like mathematics of solving tactics, because you just improve your calculation skill, and also you are motivated that I can do it, this kind of feeling. But when you show them some abstract ideas, it's of course not very easy to absorb what the teacher are trying to tell them. So what should a trainer do in the second threshold? I think that a trainer's goal should be choosing some instructive examples from the past or also from the current teams, and then show them this most important ideas and thoughts about chess alongside the chess game. Because as the sixth world champion, Mihail Botvinnik once told, chess is the art of analysis. He didn't only consider analyzing unsolved games, but also the importance of analyzing the things from the past. So, for these abstract topics, such as the importance of a bishop pair or importance of the center, these kind of things, you should bring the right games, right model games in front of the kid and tell them what do we do, how should we build our plan accordingly. So you show them some simple examples first, and then to more complex ones so that they can understand the topic first, but then they will try to achieve more by considering a much more complex position actually. If you have any question, I can also.
Yeah, please, if someone from audience has a question on what Mr. Ataman is talking, feel free to raise your hand and ask a question immediately during his speech. Q&A in this way is more proficient.
What I forgot to mention to you is that the main motto should be like from simple to complex all the time. Whenever you bring a new topic in front of the kid or a young improver or even an adult improver, the first ingredient should be, of course, they should understand what they are trying to do. Otherwise, they look at the position without any understanding any of the parts of the game, and then they will be first not interested in the position. They will just hear about the answer. Okay, tell me the answer so that I can understand. But that's not the way actually. That's why everybody always suggested that you should make your plan accordingly. First the simple examples, and then more complex, and then probably the most complex ones. So if you put a program like that, the pupil can still be getting hard to absorb all the abstract topics, but still they can appreciate the beauty of the game, appreciate the depth of the game, and also by this way they can improve their positional understanding. Yeah. Okay. So I think this part of the presentation is one of the most important parts, because analyzing the games from the past get into masters of same level. The mind of the young player works like this. You get the position, you see the position, and you put it like in your drawers, in your mindset. And then when a similar position comes in front of you, without even remembering all the details, you make some connection, make some similarities between this past game, and then you focus your thoughts on this way actually. You have to shape your plans accordingly, because when you know that such a plan is also very beneficial in such kind of positions, then you can direct your thoughts on that and think like, if I can make similar ways to achieve my goal. Take, for example, some other things. When you first see it, it's like so awakening and so amazing for the young player, sacrificing his queen and then checkmating with the knight in the corner of the position. When you first time you see it, then it's kind of very exciting. But when a similar position comes into you, then you say like, okay, I have my queen, also my knight is very near to the king, opponent's king. So is there a way that I can sacrifice my queen and also beat my opponent's king on f7 but with my knight? This is such a simple example, but even if the topic is not about tactical elements actually, even if it's like strategical, then I will show you a couple of minutes later. You always make a bridge between the old information and the new position in front of you. And by this way, actually, I have some experience to work with Mr. Mihail Gurevich in the past. He always says, I'm a very old boy, so I cannot calculate like a calculational machine or something. I just make similarities. I see the position, then it's similar So if it does the job, then I don't have to calculate anymore, actually. That's all the time he always recommend this way to me. Of course, calculation is one of the most important skills in chess, but still, building some connections and making similarities with the old position is very important.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
According to your experience, doesn't this calculation stuff lead to lose of motivation for young kids who play chess? Do they like calculations, or they prefer being like craftsmen and consider chess as an art and shouldn't play without any mathematical and calculated stuff?
Now, of course, this is my own humble opinion. I may be wrong, but I think during their first steps, the most important thing is they should feel like I can do it, because they want to be appreciated by their trainers or their parents. So calculational skills or craftsmanship or some imagination, I don't think that matters most. But if you put a very complex and very hard example in front of them and they cannot do it, they cannot solve it, then they become suddenly boring and they go to the chess classes, chess lessons, but without any motivation. If this always happens, then they lose concentration and lost their interest in the game, and that was the thing, I think.
And this sort of learning path, don't you think that too much coaches put too much emphasis on this tactical and calculational issue rather than letting them play?
I think the most important thing is that to give way to them to make some mistakes and learn from them, of course. And this is like a trial and error, actually, playing. But you cannot make all your students play all the time, actually. You should also make some classes, some teachings. But what I do when I work with the young ones, actually, I make them play with some similar strength players, and then tell a chess topic to them. But they always have a homework book, actually, or they know what they should do by themselves, because the trainer's first and foremost important task is to make them be able to work without a coach, actually. The coach is always happy to work with a young player, of course, but if a coach is successful, in my humble opinion, the most important criteria for that is that the kid, is it working by himself, or is he or she always needs a trainer alongside with him? Actually, this is the most important thing. Therefore, I think tactical things are good in a way that they can see the answers, or they know the outcome of the game, actually, and they suddenly get their benefits, also rewards. Okay, my answer is correct, so I'm smart and stuff. But if you show them some very hard example, like this is a passed pawn, this is a bishop pair, some stuff, they cannot understand anything and they lose interest. Even if they give one good question, good answer to this important question, sometimes later they will lose interest, and I think in the long term they will not be able to improve more. After this last sentence, you can see this another topic emerges. It's called pattern recognition, and the first steps of pattern recognition is, of course, achieved by solving tactical questions, because the positions are always similar. Gradually, their levels always increases, but you see the pattern, and then you make your step accordingly. This is the first step for pattern recognition. And this is a similar example that I brought you to a very good book from Marie Chandler, How to Beat Your Dad at Chess. You see, there are two positions with 10 pieces each, and the same pieces are on the board. You cannot understand anything from the first one because it's so complex and awkward, actually. Nobody sees such kind of positions. But in second positions, everybody knows the background checkmate. So if you show them to your pupil, they will immediately find the right answer without even blinking actually, and play rook e8 and checkmate. So this is the importance of pattern recognition, of course. You show them some model position that can be seen from many games, and then make them understand the topic, and when a similar situation arises, then you can act accordingly, actually. This is a very basic example, of course, but you can gradually improve this with some millions of positions, of course. Okay, this is from my previous article for like 5-6 years ago. Two different games, but two similar positions arose between 8 years, actually. The first one is not very famous one. Victor Chikolta's win against Mr. Masic in 1971, I guess. The first two diagrams in the near to his picture, actually. And the second one is Yesengeler's most famous win against Anikaya in 1979. You see the similarities between them. Two different, very different openings, actually. But when you show this position to your pupil, if you had shown this position to your pupil, and then let's think that he has some kind of such kind of positions, he will know for sure how to act and what are the needs of the position without even thinking. Because he can make some similarities in between them, and then calculation is not important at that moment for framework, actually. Okay. I just saw the detailed answer in this position, like sacrificing the queen and then putting the bishop on the center, and the last move is sacrificing the rook. And suddenly the king is checkmated in the corner. Actually, this is the first position, and the second position. This is more complex, actually. That's why I brought this topic to you. Because it's a similar position, but still there are some improvements to be done in order to make this pattern recognition work. Of course, then we can see the importance of pattern recognition that should be supported by calculation for sure. Because you cannot win any games without calculations. You build the similarities and then think like, how can I make this work? And then you start to calculate the position. In this one, for example, the most important element for sure is the pawn on e6. If the pawn on e6 stays on the board, then when the white bishop comes to d4, he can block it with e4, e6, e5. So that's why, even if you make this similarity between those two positions, you have to prepare it to work. So that's why Ukrainian Grandmaster Yefimgeler played knight d5, forking the queen and the bishop first, and also decoying the pawn to come to d5 so that it cannot block the long diagonal. And then after e takes d5, he plays knight c6, and the same similarities occurs just like the Chikolta game. This is a very striking example, in my opinion. Very similar positions, even if they seem like same position, there can be some nuances that you have to take into account, actually. So you have to prepare it with your calculations. That's why I think calculation ability should be improved by the role of solving, like making these things work also. Okay. Of course, when you even take this, for example, this encyclopedia of chess combinations, like 2,000 different winning combinational puzzles, there are many, many positions. Even from the book, there are so many similar positions. Then you can understand the importance of pattern recognition. But even if when you listen with Magnus Carlsen, he always says that I don't have to calculate everything all the time. I take this position, similar position from this game, because his memorization is also, not memorization, but his mind is so strong that he can remember so many positions, even if he just looked at like for 2 to 3 minutes. But the idea, the similarity comes from the drawer, and then you use it in your home, actually. Yeah. Okay, the other most important things, because the trainers, at least currently, the most important task for the trainer after installing the love for the game to teach their pupils the right openings. When should I show this opening to him? Is this opening suitable for him? But one of the main mistakes that we all make, also I also made some very important mistake in my former experiences. The trainer wants to have results, of course, to show the parents of the kid. They show them what they know the best, without considering the previous game character, also level. For example, you can play d4, some close opening, you like maneuvering and stuff, but the kid loves to solve his problems tactically, and so he feels home when the position is open. So even if you know close position better than your pupil and want to make him let's play d4 or let's play c4, some kind of stuff, if the pupil is not ready for it, his level is not ready for it, or his character is not suitable for it, then the result will not be actually good, actually. Even if you have some short-term results, some good tournament results, some winning, etc., in the long term, they lose their potential, in my opinion. So, okay. Okay, and the second thing, how do we identify our pupils, our students' character on the board? Actually, you understand from by looking their attitude towards life, in my opinion. If they like fighting over the board or attacking or complex position, just like Mihail Tal, then you should decide their opponents accordingly. But always our motto should be like from simple to complex. So that's why most experienced trainers that I share, I see their experience. They always tell that you should play with e4, d5, d4, d5, because in order to understand the symmetrical situations, some central situations, you shall not begin with the Sicilian or Grunfeld and such more complex openings. Maybe in the long term, you make a plan. Okay, my student is tactical, he's very aggressive, he likes opposite side castling and so stuff. You can make him play Sicilian or more aggressive things like King's Gambit or Evans Gambit and that stuff, but not in the short term, I think. First, they should understand the struggle between the symmetrical positions, two sides in the symmetrical positions. That's why even if their character demands that the position demands that they should play in the aggressive ones, they can play in their trainings actually, but in the official tournaments or when they go to some tournament that they give importance to that, make them play the solid stuff first, and then, but they can play in the friendly games, some training games, more complex things, and then in the future they can adjust accordingly, actually. The second paragraph, I told that in the long term, they should feel like, I like to play this position. Opposite to my saying previously, if you make your student, try to make your student improve their tactical needs by making them playing gambits, but if they give so much importance to material, they don't want to sacrifice any pawns or stuff, it's not their actually request. It's your request to make them play like that. So even if they win some games or something, then they will not enjoy the games and they will be always like, oh, I'm a pawn down and I'm not getting a good position. What if I cannot make a good attack or something, some pressure from their self during the game? They will not enjoy it. Even if they win, they will not enjoy it. Therefore, you should first identify their game character and then choose some openings afterwards. Okay. The other problem is that when a young kid comes to your class and he has no experience in studying openings or stuff, you can show anything you want to them. But if they have a narrow or wide opening repertoire, it's very hard to make them change their ideas actually. It's very important. I always tell my students, you should change your openings when you are winning, because it's not very nice to change the openings when you're losing. But when you are winning, you know, okay, I achieved my goal in this area. Maybe I can enlarge my arsenal with some different openings. So not always repeating the same thing, but enlarging your arsenal in this way, I think is the most reasonable and correct way. Of course, I'm not telling this to professional players like Mr. Güven, but for the young guys, actually, they always want to win and they are hesitant to change their opening repertoire if they will get good results. But probably playing the same thing over and over again, they start not to think actually, playing automatically, and this automation is not very good for their development, in my opinion. And then how do you make them to play some different openings? Because they always are very suspicious about solid soundness of this opening. My experience is that even if it contradicts with this chess most important feature, like objectivity, you should. I always choose some basic games that, for example, you make them play Italian game. I show them some miniatures that white wins first. What is the reason for that? Of course, I know that the games are not won so easily. The thing is that they should first see the positions that, if I play Italian gambit or Italian game, I can win in a miniature in like 25 moves or something. And when they start to like the new opening that in front of them, then you should show them some tricks and some possible troubles actually about the openings. Therefore, they should know that even this opening is good for me, there can be some issues that I have to solve during it. So you have to balance it. First showing them the good sides, and when you win their respect on this opening, then show them some bad side. And then, of course, you'll be always more to the classics for the pattern recognition thing. You have to choose some model games first, so that the model game should tell them the basic ideas, the plannings, and then stuff. And then I think analyzing it thoroughly is much more beneficial from memorization of the variations, from complex variations. So I never show long variations to my student when we start a new opening, but instead I give them some 5-6 model games, and the model games emphasizes the basic needs of the positions, and we analyze it together actually. So then, even in my database, when I was acting as a trainer, I have a database of openings, but I never have a database of variations. I only have the model games. For example, you have Bogo Indian, you have this Scamris Beliowski game, so on and so on. The model games are very important in the sense. So in order to gain their respect, you should show them the first the bright sides, and then the hardships, and then the model games. And then afterwards, they can practice online their ideas in this new opening online, and then get their mistakes, where did I make mistake, and analyze it with the trainer or some stockfish or something, and then they can improve. That's the good way, actually. I wanted to show this topic with an example. Actually, this is Paul Benko, of course, legendary Hungarian grandmaster. And there is this Benko gambit opening with black pieces, d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, d5. It's kind of different from other gambits that you sacrifice an attack, but this is like more structural game. You see, the black's idea is always the same. You put the dark square bishop on the long diagonal and then pressure white's pawns on the semi-open A and B files. And you have a very solid base on your pawn structure. I tell them to them, then probably this is the ideal Benko gambit position. White's the pawn up. And he has no development problems actually. King is safe, everything is stuck. But White's main problem is to improve their position. If he is not able to push e5, for example, then he will face some problems. But Black is a very nice and understandable player in this position. Put the knight on c4, the other knight to d7, e5 or b6, and the bishop is also nice. And also you can undermine the White's pawn chain on the center, d5, e4 by pushing e6 at the right moment. So this is a nice way to show this is the ideal position that you have to achieve. And then from the, and then suddenly I show a position from a different opening. This is Nimzowicz Capablanca 1914, St. Petersburg, very important tournament. Here, Capablanca played the opening phase quite poorly and lost a pawn on a7. But still, the similarities you can see, there are semi-open A and B files. And Black also can put his rook on e8 to increase his pressure on e4. So some similarities, but some kind of difference also appears on the board. Still a pattern recognition, and we use it during our choosing of the openings. Okay, I wanted to analyze it, of course, not important, but maybe we can go to the next diagram if you like. Yeah. This is the final position that I want to show you. Black, of course, improved his position greatly, putting the rooks on the B file, and he's also helped with his opponent's mistake A4. But White couldn't improve his position somewhat. No ideas, and here he sacrificed the exchange on D4, but lost in like 20 moves. So what I did, I chose a similar plan from a very different opening. It doesn't import because the name of the openings can differ, but the positions have similarities all the time. So instead of making them memorize a very long and complex and not understandable position, you should show them some model games, even from different openings, some model games, and then they can understand what kind of plans can be beneficial for my position. That's how I do actually. My opening experience is like that. Of course, this is not good for professional players, but I'm talking about young players actually journey. And after that. Okay. The most boring part probably for a young guy is studying endgames, because the positions are so dry, so many, not so many pieces, only several pieces left on the board. But still, that doesn't change the reality of importance of the endgames, because if you go to the endgame, you have to give right decisions, and this is the most critical phase of the game actually, because if you make some little mistake in your calculation or some evaluation, then you suddenly lose. You cannot make the position improve or something. So what do? We have to choose some theoretical knowledge, such as opposition and the pawn endgames, square rule, and for example, the rook endgames, the free or defense rule setup, bridge, and so stuff. Of course, you should show these theoretical positions to your pupil, but then there are two ways, in my opinion, showing, of course, some important games of like Capablanca, Smistov, Karpov, these great guys, great endgame guys like Carlsen. Show them examples so that they could be inspirational for them. And also some other thing that I always like is choosing some calculational tests from pawn and games actually. Because in pawn and games, there are some peculiarities, some nuances, of course, but the most important thing is, I think, calculation. You have to try to understand the results of the game by calculating. I push my pawn, he pushes, his king comes closer and stuff. So when I work with the kids, instead of showing them some very hard to understand queen and games, for example, I give them some not very easy pawn ending positions and try to make them calculate. This is a good calculational test, in my opinion. And even if it's boring, they are like calculating like a machine there. So little pieces, so little pawns, so little number of pawns. They are trying to calculate pawn push, and this is one step. And the second version is showing them some inspirational position of endgame studies. This is, of course, totally different part of the game, in my opinion. Because, for example, I never solved a endgame study until I'm like 25 or something. Nobody told me ever the importance of endgame studies. But when you start to appreciate the beauty of them, first, you are like, whoa, what kind of an idea is this? And secondly, you understand the power of cooperation of the pieces and the importance of each piece on the board, actually. Because of course, endgame studies, each pawn, each pieces have one duty, and other than that, there are no pieces on the board, even no single pawn. So you have so little number of pieces on the board in this principle of economy. You understand the importance of little pawn. That pawn seems like it doesn't do anything, but it protects some second solution, for example, sometimes. So when you show them not so hard endgame studies, they are like, oh, the endgames are not always boring. This is also kind of interesting to solve some endgame studies also. And this is the great book, of course, One Parallels Endgame Tactics. And I like the book, of course, very much. Also the title of the book. It's like the sunny side of chess, because in this book, there are like endgame positions all the time. But the endgame positions have always tactical issues in it. Some discovered attacks, some in-between moves or so. So I think just like the tactics solving procedures, from the endgames, after you give them some theoretical endgame knowledge, you should make them solve these not so hard endgame tactics actually. So this is a very good book. Okay. And some other recommendations I wanted to share is, I couldn't write all the details of this, of course. Choosing and following a hero. I think this is very important. Sometimes, of course, the level should be suitable with the player, but if they have some inspirational hero in front of them, many of us also do it. For example, Mr. Kramnik chooses to play Catalan, and suddenly everybody plays Catalan, or Carson plays some opening, and then everybody follows them. Usually, the young guys, they have to build a connection with this hero and choose their openings like that. And also, if they see them play so good, their hero, that they also have extra motivation to follow their games, actually, from their tournament. They always follow their favorite players' games, and then try to understand why he play like this and so on. So this is a very good way, I think, to improve your pupils' journey. And there are also some books, actually. There is this Grandmaster Chess Strategy, always taking these middle game positions, or end game positions, end game measures, alongside with Ulf Andersson's game, for example. They put some there, and then choose some instructive end game examples from his experiences, and then tell these important topics according to alongside to him is play. Creating a fun chess environment, I do not need to tell anything to you because, of course, working one-to-one with a trainer can be beneficial, but in the first years of improving, I think it's not very good. You have to build like a friendship area for them, some rivalry between similar guys with similar ages, and so this is very important to create a competition in between them, some thematic tournaments, some tournaments. This is always good for them. And the third one is, of course, everybody uses it. I do not mean to tell it, but using these technological things to improve. Chess-based, chess.com, chess.org, and Chessable. These are great tools that we didn't have like 10 years ago. So I think these are also very important to build a good structure of the learning path of a young chess player. Okay, thank you. That was my presentation. I hope that you like it, and also I think my humble experiences are also inspirational for you. Thank you very much.
Someone from the audience wants to ask Fide Master Ataman a question? Because I do. If someone, I'm ready to give a floor to someone from audience, like using my position as a host.
Okay, for instance, I was happy.
What do you think is the most common mistake coaches made structuring the learning path for the player, and why it is happening based on your experience?
Based on my experience, I think the most common mistake is pressuring up too much, making pressure on their development. Instead of concentrating on their development, we always make like, you should win this tournament, you should beat this guy, you are stronger than him. So thinking like the outcome of the game is of course important, but if you start to pressure your students, then there is this negative electricity between you and him. And suddenly if this connection breaks, then even if you tell them so important topics, the guy won't get it, I think. That's one of the main mistakes. And the second one I mentioned, if you emphasize your own style, your own openings to him too much, of course you should share some experiences of your own from past games. This is another issue, but if you emphasize, if you make them play like, you should play this opening, without asking or without considering their ideas, I think that's also one common mistake. Thinking always result-orientedly is the main mistake of the trainer. I know that it doesn't go because of negative ambitions or something, because everybody wants to show that their people are very strong players and the parents should appreciate them, but still, we should not think too much score-oriented, I think.
And one more question based like on my experience as a parent. Whether parents should be completely trustful for the coach, and whether there signs of psychological wear on the kid with this particular coach. I mean, if parents should look for some exact signs on his kid and to start thinking about making a coachable change.
Yes. But
I think trusting the trainer is of course very important, even if you are worried with the unsuccessful cooperation with the pupil and the trainer. You should give some time actually to first look if this partnership is beneficial for my kid or something. But sometimes in Turkey, I don't know in other countries, but in Turkey I see that the parents are in front of their kid actually most of the time, or very bad for it. But the thing is that they should be alongside with their kid and trainers. Even if sometimes negative results come, they should think about not not according to the short-term results actually, but they should see if there is a gradual improvement of my kid's chess level, chess understanding, or does he like chess more from the old times? That they should consider. So you have to build a good relationship between the player, the parents, and the trainers. So even if one of the parts is broken, then the results will decrease, I think.
Yeah, thank you for your reply. And one more sort of clarification. Sometimes the coach says this player is in a learning path. You just, as a parent, don't interrupt. Let me work with him or her. We are just in the middle of the way. Be patient. Whether the parent should be completely trustful to the coach, or is there any, science to look at, or the path the coach chose for your kid is not the right one, or this is the right one, just let the kid struggle a little bit more before getting to some results or progress.
Yeah, progress is very important in my opinion. But I think the parents should, of course, trust the trainer because he's much more experienced. They can only interrupt if they see some loss of motivation or something, or some loss of love of the game. If the kid doesn't want to play in tournaments, or doesn't want to go to the classes, or doesn't want to study some games, then that should be a problem. But even so, I think giving some time to the trainer is the right way. But of course, the parents should talk about this topic openly so that they can solve this matter altogether. Otherwise, if there is not a trusting cooperation between them, then it won't work, I think.
Thank you. Anyone from the audience?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I actually couldn't be here all the time because I was taking care of my son, and so my apologies. But yeah, because the topic of coach and parents brought I'm really compared to make this question ask you this question. Actually, I'm a master, and I'm here as a parent, but I'm not coaching him officially. But it's he doesn't have any coach either. So I'm sometimes I teach him some kind of openings or topics, and I would you give me advice as a parent? So for someone who is a coach, parent who is a parent, and also try to be a coach of his own child. Is there any good method to cope with combining those two functions? Or maybe I can also I'm trying to find someone who is better suited as a coach at some moment if he continues playing, and but the thing is there are not many coaches here in my country, which is a part, and I don't know if I have to look for someone who is abroad and teach him online. Is there any suggestions about how the online coaching is works, or is there any difference between teaching in person and teaching online? Thank you so much.
First of all, I want to congratulate you because I couldn't make my kid, of course, play chess. Which one? It's a very different and I think hard topic in my opinion. But if you find a coach other than you, I think it can be better for your son actually. If in person is not possible, then online coaching, maybe you understand, of course, the progress of your kid. So maybe you should watch the progress and then decide. But being a father and then a coach, the kid also confuses during this procedure, because if he makes a mistake and you are angry with him, for example, you tell them, don't play like this and stop. He will be confused. Are you talking to me as a parent or a trainer? That's the main problem in my opinion. If there is no coaches in Japan, or some good coaches, I think online platforms gives you so many opportunities, and you you choose one of them, and then give him 3 months and see if there is a progress. I'm not talking about the chess progress actually. The difference in motivation, that's the most important thing, I guess.
So maybe I may ask one last question of mine, and just let the audience think a little bit about their questions. If you could give one key piece of advice to coaches and parents about long-term chess development, what would it be?
I think the first sentence of my presentation was instilling love of the game actually, but of course this is also a broad suggestion. But when I see a good player, great player, I always see them, they always love the heritage of the game, for example. They appreciate the importance of the past masters actually. They always follow the recent games. They play online. They always go to some school or they have some work, but in the evening they go and play some blitz online. This is because they have the love of the game actually. If a trainer manages to do it, I think even if the progress is not great or not like the desired one, I think he can consider himself successful, because if they give the importance of chess culture to their pupils in the long term, even if they give up chess for 10 years or so, they come back still not a great player, but as a chess aficionado. And that's, I think, more important thing actually. If thinking professionally, of course, I'm not talking about it. It's a different subject. They always have to work, and this is their work actually. But other than that, if you give some ideas, if they follow chess like a chess enthusiast, if you talk about a position of the recent game, for example, of Magnus Carlsen, and if they are excited, oh, what an idea that he played or something like this, I think you shall consider yourself a successful trainer, and that's the most important thing, I think. For example, I was acting very actively as a trainer 20 years ago, but many of my pupils gave up chess, and then they start to come back actually, because chess is like that actually. They call themselves chess addicts, and I think a trainer's duty is to instill love about the game, and that's the most important thing in my opinion.
Thank you so much. If there is no more questions, I think we may say thank you from all the audience for this beautiful presentation and sharing your opinion, sharing your experience. It's very precise and interesting, and we hope in the future we will have much more preparation on these master classes with him. And thank you so much.
Thank you.